Philosophy is often seen as a path to wisdom, but here's the hard truth. Most of it is just intellectual bullshit. For thousands of years, thinkers have spent their lives debating life's biggest questions. What is the meaning of life? What is reality? Why do we suffer? But does any of this endless reflection actually help us live better lives? Or is it just an excuse to avoid taking action? The deeper we dive into these philosophical questions, the more we risk getting stuck in thought, disconnected from the real world. Philosophy offers us comfort in understanding, but rarely provides the push we need to change anything. It helps us explain our failures, but it doesn't help us overcome them. The truth is, reflection without action becomes a trap. We sit, we think, we analyze, all while the real world moves forward without us. Philosophy promises wisdom, but too often it leaves us paralyzed by thought, unable to move, unable to act. In times of personal crisis, when the weight of existence feels unbearable, many turn to philosophical thought. Life's difficulties often push people inward, into their minds, where they search for answers to questions that feel too big to face directly. A breakup, a job loss, a failure in life, these moments can spark a deep, existential need to make sense of it all. Philosophy in these moments seems like a refuge. It explains that suffering is part of the human condition, that life's struggles are universal, that we are not alone in our pain. Existentialism tells us that life may have no inherent meaning, and it's up to us to create our own. For some, these ideas offer comfort, an intellectual balm that softens the sting of reality. But philosophy often goes no further than this comfort. Rather than confronting the hardship head-on, people retreat further into the safety of thought. They find explanations for why they feel the way they do, but these explanations become excuses. The world outside remains as challenging as ever. Yet, inside, a person has found a reason to stay exactly where they are. History shows that during times of great societal upheaval, entire cultures have turned to philosophy as a way to make sense of chaos. In ancient Greece, philosophical thought flourished during periods of instability and political strife. When the external world became too overwhelming, people looked inward for understanding. The problem is that this inward turn can sometimes become a prison, a place of endless contemplation that keeps people stuck in their heads while the real challenges of life continue unabated. There is a particular danger in overthinking, a tendency that philosophers of all people are most vulnerable to. When faced with choices or difficult decisions, overthinking can lead to paralysis. The mind becomes so preoccupied with analyzing every possible outcome, every variable, that it becomes impossible to act. Philosophy encourages this kind of thinking. From the very beginning, it has been about asking questions. What is truth? What is knowledge? Can we ever really be certain of anything? René Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am," launching centuries of debate over the nature of reality. But while this statement may be profound in its own way, where does it leave us in our daily lives? Is questioning the very nature of reality helpful when what we need is to make a simple decision or take action in the world? Overthinking is a kind of trap. The deeper one dives into philosophical questions, the more abstract they become. And the more abstract they become, the less applicable they are to real life. Before long, thought becomes its own obstacle. Instead of moving forward, we find ourselves trapped in endless cycles of analysis, while the problems we face in the real world remain unresolved. Socrates, one of the greatest thinkers in history, believed that people should live like him, dedicating their lives to the pursuit of wisdom and constant self-examination. He spent his days questioning everything, challenging assumptions, exposing ignorance, and seeking truth. Socrates urged others to follow his example, arguing that the unexamined life was not worth living. But what would happen if everyone lived like Socrates? If everyone spent their days in deep philosophical reflection, constantly questioning but never acting? Who would work? Who would grow the food, build the houses, or handle the practical realities that keep society functioning? Socrates himself didn't engage in manual labor. He relied on others for his livelihood, allowing him to focus entirely on philosophical inquiry. If everyone followed his example, society would quickly fall apart. A world full of thinkers constantly questioning but never acting would be unsustainable. The truth is, societies need both thinkers and doers. Wisdom, as valuable as it is, cannot replace action. Socrates' way of life might elevate the mind, but it offers no solutions for the practical challenges that people face every day. Without action, without people willing to work and build, the world would grind to a halt. Socrates believed that people should strive to live as he did, but the reality is that a society cannot survive on philosophy alone. Thought without action is empty, and wisdom without work is meaningless. Not all philosophers were content to stay in the realm of thought. Soren Kierkegaard, one of the founders of existentialism, understood the limits of philosophy. While many thinkers focused on reflection, Kierkegaard emphasized action. Life, for Kierkegaard, is filled with uncertainty. No amount of thinking will ever provide us with complete clarity. Instead, he argued that people must take a leap of faith, making decisions and taking action even when they don't have all the answers. This leap of faith is the antidote to overthinking. Kierkegaard recognized that endlessly analyzing life's choices only leads to paralysis. Instead, he called for individuals to embrace the unknown, to act despite the uncertainty, and to live with the consequences of those actions. For him, meaning is found not in thinking, but in doing. The leap of faith is not just about religious belief, as some might assume. It's about the willingness to act in life's most uncertain moments. Kierkegaard saw that true growth, true meaning, comes from making choices and taking risks. Waiting for perfect understanding before acting, he believed, would leave a person stuck forever. When faced with life's challenges, there's often a tension between philosophical reflection and practical action. While philosophy encourages us to contemplate the nature of our existence, there's a limit to how much thinking can truly help us. At some point, action becomes more valuable than thought. Psychology, for example, offers concrete methods to overcome mental and emotional obstacles. It doesn't ask us to ponder the meaning of life, but instead gives us tools to improve our habits, change our thought patterns, and deal with stress in practical ways. Likewise, self-help encourages action. It doesn't claim to have all the answers, but it urges us to take steps toward improvement, no matter how small. Practical solutions, while not as intellectually stimulating as philosophy, are often what's needed to bring about real change. A person can spend years contemplating the nature of their suffering or their place in the universe, but without taking steps to address the real-world causes of their problems, they will remain stuck. Philosophy has its place, but it often falls short when it comes to real-life challenges. Reflection can help us understand the world, but it's action that allows us to change it. Philosophy, for all its beauty and intellectual depth, can easily become a crutch. It offers explanations, justifications, and reasons to stay where we are, but it rarely gives us the tools to move forward. Reflection has its limits, and when used as a substitute for action, it becomes a barrier to progress. At some point, the real question isn't what is the meaning of life, but what am I doing about it? Understanding life's complexities is one thing, but it's action that creates change. The world moves forward with or without our thoughts. It's up to us to decide whether we move with it. Philosophy can be a guide, a way to make sense of our experiences, but it should never replace the need for action. When we find ourselves lost in thought, trapped in a cycle of analysis, it's time to step out and make choices that bring about real change. Action is what leads to transformation. Philosophy can wait.